You felt it long before you understood it. That tension in your chest when someone said, "Be realistic." That quiet resistance when your life was reduced to shifts and schedules. That ache when your potential was boxed into an hourly wage. You are not ordinary. You never have been. You were born with something different in your spirit, a weight, a pull, an assignment. And the world tried to measure you by clocks. Have you ever noticed that time feels different to you? That when you are aligned, hours disappear. But when you are confined, minutes feel like chains. That is not coincidence. That is covenant. There are 9 hidden covenants that govern your life as a chosen one. 9 spiritual agreements written into your identity before you ever filled out an application. 9 boundaries that forbid you from shrinking your destiny into survival. Not everyone will understand this. Only the chosen recognize it. Only those who have wrestled with invisible warfare over their purpose feel this deeply. Listen carefully. If this resonates in your spirit, if something in you is stirring already, this is your confirmation. Stand firm. Lean in. Make sure you are connected here. Because what you are about to hear will separate clarity from confusion. There are 9 hidden covenants. First, you were marked to build kingdoms, not clocks. You always felt resistance to confinement, even as a child. Even before you had language for destiny, you could follow instructions, you could perform, you could achieve, but something inside you refused to belong to the system. Have you ever asked yourself why structure drains you when it energizes others? Why routine feels like a cage instead of security? Why the idea of trading your days for dollars feels like slow suffocation? That is not laziness. That is memory, covenant memory. Your spirit knows what it agreed to before you arrived here. You were not designed for hourly existence. You were designed to create impact that outlives hours. Time is the currency of the ordinary, but you were commissioned to create value that multiplies while you sleep. And every time you tried to squeeze yourself into a schedule-built identity, your soul rebelled. Remember the frustration, the burnout that felt deeper than exhaustion, the sense that you were betraying something sacred inside you that wasn't weakness. That was warfare. Darkness wants you manageable, predictable, contained. Because a chosen one who remembers they build kingdoms is dangerous. Psychologically, you felt misaligned. Spiritually, you were under pressure. You questioned yourself. You wondered if you were ungrateful. But the truth is, you were never wired to rent your life by the hour. Your mind sees beyond shifts. Your vision stretches beyond pay periods. Your ideas don't belong inside someone else's ceiling. Isolation confirmed it. Rejection confirmed it. The doors that closed confirmed it. You were being redirected. This covenant forbids you from shrinking. It forbids you from settling. It forbids you from confusing employment with assignment. You build systems, you shift atmospheres, you create legacy. And that is why clocks feel like chains. Stand firm in that truth. Because if this first covenant already unsettles you, wait until you understand what the second one reveals. Second, your energy is anointed. It cannot be leased cheaply. You have felt this your entire life. You walk into a room and something shifts. You say a few words and atmospheres rearrange. You withdraw your presence and environments grow heavier. Have you noticed that people react to you before they understand you? Some are drawn, some are threatened, some become defensive for no visible reason. That is not personality, that is voltage. You carry spiritual current. And the world wants to plug that current into outlets that were never built to hold it. When you give your energy without alignment, something happens. Not simple tiredness, not normal fatigue. Warfare. You feel drained in your bones, your mind clouds, your spirit dulls, your joy flickers. And you wonder, why does this hit me harder than it hits them? Because your capacity is sacred. Ordinary energy can be exchanged casually. Anointed energy cannot. You were not designed to scatter your life force across environments that do not honor your assignment. Listen carefully. Burnout for you is not weakness, it is warning. It is your spirit signaling misplacement. The enemy does not need to destroy you if he can exhaust you. He does not need to attack openly if he can keep you overextended. He knows that when you are aligned, you are unstoppable. So he tempts you with security, with predictability, with the illusion of stability. But every time you trade your sacred energy for something that does not reflect your destiny, you feel it. The heaviness, the irritability, the silent grief. You are not tired from work. You are drained from misalignment. There is a difference. Work can sharpen you, assignment can stretch you, but misplacement corrodes you. Have you ever left a room and felt like something was taken from you? Have you ever completed a task and felt smaller instead of stronger? That is covenant resistance. Your energy was consecrated before you were conscious of it. You are not meant to be consumed. You are meant to commission. You are not meant to be drained. You are meant to direct. This is why rest feels different to you. You do not just need sleep, you need alignment. You do not just need breaks, you need purpose. When you operate within your calling, energy multiplies. When you operate beneath it, energy bleeds. And the world will tell you to toughen up, to adjust, to accept that exhaustion is normal. But you are not normal, you are chosen. And chosen ones must guard their oil. Your anointing is not for sale. Your presence is not for rent. Your life force is not a commodity. Stand firm in that. Because once you understand that your energy carries divine assignment, you will stop offering it cheaply. And when you stop offering it cheaply, systems begin to shake. This covenant protects you from depletion. It pulls you back from slow erosion. It forces you to remember who you are. And if this revelation is already stirring something deeper in you, wait until you see how scarcity itself was designed to test you. Third, scarcity was never your sentence. It was your test. You felt the squeeze, the tight seasons, the moments when resources thinned and options narrowed. You questioned yourself. You wondered if you missed something, if you failed somewhere. But look deeper. Have you noticed that lack never broke you? It pressed you. It stretched you. It forced something out of you. Systems trade time for money to maintain dependence. They teach survival. They reward compliance. They condition fear. But you were never wired for dependence. That is why scarcity hit you differently. For others, lack creates panic. For you, it created ideas. For others, pressure created surrender. For you, it created strategy. Do you see it now? Every financial squeeze you endured was initiation, not punishment, preparation. You were being trained to generate from within, to create without permission, to move without guarantees. Darkness uses scarcity as a leash, but heaven used it as a forge. You learned to think when there was nothing, to imagine when doors were closed, to believe when numbers said no. That is creative dominion. You were never meant to survive. You were meant to multiply. Survival shrinks vision. Multiplication expands territory. Survival says, just get by. Multiplication says, build beyond. And your spirit has never been satisfied with just enough. Even in lack, you dreamed large. Even in tight seasons, your mind expanded. Even when you had little, your vision refused to shrink. That is not arrogance. That is covenant design. Your calling threatens systems built on limitation. If you discover you can create value without chains, if you realize you are a source and not just a worker, the structure loses its hold. So scarcity tested you. Would you panic or would you awaken? Would you beg for security or would you discover authority? Look back. Those nights of uncertainty sharpened you. Those moments of stretching built resilience. Those seasons of not enough activated resourcefulness you did not know you possessed. You became dangerous in lack because you learned you were not dependent on environment. You were empowered from within. That is why the enemy could not finish you with financial pressure. He tried to intimidate you with numbers. He tried to scare you into submission. But you kept rising. You kept imagining. You kept building in your mind. Scarcity revealed something sacred. You are not a consumer of opportunity. You are a creator of it. You are not at the mercy of provision. Provision responds to your obedience. Feel the shift. You are not behind. You are being prepared. You are not cursed. You were being conditioned. And once you fully understand that scarcity was training ground, not trap, you will stop fearing lack. You will command it. Because the test was never about money. It was about identity. And the next covenant will reveal why your isolation was never accidental. Fourth, your isolation was never abandonment. It was strategic detachment. You watched others connect, climb, network, align themselves with systems that promised access. And you were pulled aside. Invites slowed down, rooms closed, conversations shifted when you approached. Have you ever felt like you were standing just outside the circle, close enough to see it, but never fully inside it? That was not rejection. That was rerouting. While others networked for survival, you were separated for revelation. Isolation trained your ears. When the crowd grew loud, you heard silence. When opinions multiplied, you felt restraint. When everyone said, "This is the way," something in you whispered, "Not yours." Loneliness sharpened your discernment. It hurt. It confused you. It made you question your value, but it also made you listen. Darkness thrives in noise. Light often speaks in stillness. And you were being conditioned to hear instruction over applause. You could not follow traditional paths because your assignment was not traditional. Doors that opened for others stayed shut for you. Opportunities that seemed perfect dissolved at the last moment. Partnerships that looked promising fell apart without explanation. You took it personally. You wondered if you were overlooked, undervalued, forgotten. But what if those closed doors were shields? What if access would have entangled you? What if inclusion would have diluted you? What if acceptance would have compromised you? Listen carefully. Not every open door is favor. Not every closed door is loss. Sometimes protection feels like isolation. You were being detached from the matrix. Detached from systems that exchange time for validation. Detached from environments that normalize limitation. Detached from relationships that feed on your energy without honoring your destiny. You were hidden on purpose, hidden to mature, hidden to refine, hidden to hear. Because when you are constantly surrounded, you can lose your signal. Isolation stripped away noise. It removed distraction. It forced you inward. And inward is where your authority lives. The enemy wanted you to interpret isolation as proof you were unworthy. But heaven used it as proof you were set apart. Ordinary people blend in. Chosen ones are separated. You felt alone because your frequency was different. You walked alone because your path was different. And in that solitude, something powerful formed. Self-trust, spiritual sensitivity, unshakable clarity. You stopped chasing rooms. You started guarding presence. You stopped begging for entry. You began waiting for alignment. That is growth. That is elevation. That is covenant. You were not excluded. You were insulated. And once you see isolation as preparation instead of punishment, you will stop mourning the rooms that never welcomed you. You will recognize that some circles cannot contain kingdom builders. And if detachment shaped you this deeply, wait until you understand what was awakening inside your mind the entire time. Fifth, your mind generates value beyond labor. This is where you begin to wake up. You always knew you thought differently. You process faster. You connect dots others do not even see. Ideas come to you in flashes, downloads, moments of sudden clarity that feel almost supernatural. Have you ever tried to explain your vision and watch people stare blankly? Have you ever sensed outcomes before evidence appeared? Have you ever seen patterns forming before the world called them trends? That is not imagination. That is prophetic design. You were not built for repetitive motion. You were built for revelation. The world rewards labor. Heaven entrusted you with insight. There is a difference. Labor exchanges effort for income. Insight creates systems that multiply effort. And every time you reduced your mind to task completion, something inside you tightened. You felt underused, underestimated, misplaced. Because trading that mind for wages dishonors the architecture within you. You are not just intelligent. You are intuitive. You read atmospheres, you anticipate shifts, you sense timing. That is dangerous to darkness. Because when a chosen one recognizes the power of their mind, they stop asking for permission. They start building. Think about it. Why have you always felt restless in environments that celebrate routine? Why does monotony suffocate you while others call it stability? Because your mind was not wired for maintenance. It was wired for creation. Isolation sharpened it. Scarcity activated it. Misalignment revealed it. Every struggle trained your perception. You learned to observe, to analyze, to imagine beyond limitation. And the enemy tried to convince you that you were overthinking. Too intense, too different. But what they called too much was actually too powerful. Your ideas are not random. They are assignments in seed form. When you align your mind with your calling, energy multiplies. When you shrink it to fit survival, frustration grows. You were never meant to clock in and turn off. You were meant to generate solutions, generate structures, generate movement. This is why you feel alive when you create, why time disappears when you design, why inspiration feels like oxygen. That is covenant awareness. You are not a worker first, you are a builder first. And once you accept that your mind carries divine architecture, your posture changes. You stop begging for roles, you start envisioning frameworks. You stop doubting your ideas, you begin stewarding them. Listen carefully. Your greatest asset is not your hours, it is your insight. Protect it, refine it, trust it. Because when a chosen one fully awakens to the value of their mind, they become uncontainable. And if your thoughts already feel bigger than the spaces you've been given, wait until you understand why ownership is written into your spirit. 6. You were designed to own systems, not feed them. This is where the tension always intensified. Every job that felt suffocating was not random. Every environment that made your chest tighten was not coincidence. You felt it. That subtle resistance to being managed. That discomfort when your ideas were minimized. That irritation when authority operated without integrity. You tried to adjust. You told yourself to be humble, to stay quiet, to just comply. But something in you would not bow. Have you noticed that authority clashes seemed to follow you? Even when you were respectful, even when you were excellent, it wasn't rebellion, it was recognition. Your spirit detects hierarchy distortion. You can sense when leadership is insecure. You can feel when systems are built on control instead of vision. You know when structure exists to suppress, not empower. And that awareness makes darkness uneasy. Because a chosen one who sees through false authority cannot be easily contained. You are wired to build frameworks, not maintain cages. That is why routine roles felt like confinement, why micromanagement felt insulting, why creative suppression felt violent to your soul. You were not being dramatic, you were being misaligned. Ownership is not ego. Understand that. The world labels your independence as pride, but heaven calls it obedience. You were given blueprint capacity. You see how things could operate better, how processes could be improved, how people could be empowered instead of restricted. That is not criticism, that is design. When you feed systems that were never meant to steward you, your spirit shrinks. When you build systems aligned with your calling, your spirit expands. Feel the contrast. Feeding drains, owning activates, submission to dysfunction exhausts you. Stewardship of vision energizes you. That is the covenant. You were not meant to endlessly support someone else's ceiling. You were meant to establish foundations. This is why you never felt comfortable staying small. This is why you sensed potential in yourself that others did not understand. They saw an employee. Heaven saw an architect. And the enemy tried to keep you distracted with titles, with temporary promotions, with symbolic authority that lacked real control. But deep inside you knew. You were not created to operate under ceilings. You were created to set them. This awareness is dangerous, because once you stop apologizing for your leadership instinct, you stop shrinking. You begin preparing to steward, preparing to structure, preparing to command environments instead of surviving them. Stand firm in this truth. Your intolerance for misaligned authority was never character flaw. It was covenant signal. You are not wired for dependency. You are wired for dominion. And if ownership is written into your spirit this deeply, wait until you understand why your delay was not denial. 7. Financial delay was never denial. It was conditioning. You watched others rise quickly. You saw applause fall on people who seemed less prepared. You witnessed shortcuts rewarded. And you waited. You questioned the timing. You wrestled with comparison. You wondered why your path felt slower, heavier, more refined. But look again. While others learned entitlement, you learned patience. They celebrated prematurely. You developed discipline quietly. They consumed quickly. You studied stewardship. Have you noticed how careful you are with what you build? How intentional you are with what you invest? how deeply you consider long-term impact. That did not come from comfort. It came from pressure. Pressure forged discernment in you. You learned to stretch resources, to manage little with wisdom, to multiply small opportunities into meaningful growth. Darkness tried to humiliate you with delay, tried to whisper you are behind, tried to convince you that your timeline meant you were forgotten. But heaven was doing something deeper. You were being trained for overflow. Understand this. If abundance had arrived before discipline, it would have distracted you. If elevation had come before maturity, it would have destabilized you. So delay protected you. You were being shaped to carry weight. Others break under prosperity because they were never trained in restraint. You were refined in hidden seasons. No spotlight, no validation, no shortcuts. Just development. That quiet development made you dangerous. Because now you do not crave attention. You crave structure. You do not chase quick wins. You build foundations. You were being taught how to manage overflow without losing integrity. That is sovereign discipline. You do not panic under pressure anymore. You calculate. You pray. You move strategically. You have seen lack. You have stretched through it. You have survived without losing your vision. That means abundance will not control you. It will obey you. Feel the shift. You are not late. You are loaded. Loaded with wisdom. Loaded with restraint. Loaded with perspective that cannot be taught in comfort. Delay did not weaken you. It solidified you. It burned entitlement out of you. It carved humility into you. It sharpened your discernment. And now when increase comes, you will not fumble it. You will steward it. This is why your path felt heavier. You were not just earning income. You were building capacity. Stand firm in that truth. Because once you recognize that your waiting season was training for authority, you stop envying speed. You begin preparing for scale. And if discipline has already shaped you this deeply, wait until you see why shrinking yourself now would violate everything inside you. Eighth, your fear of playing small is not insecurity. It is warning. You have tried to shrink before. You told yourself, just be practical, just be realistic, just be normal. And what happened? Anxiety intensified. Restlessness grew. Peace disappeared. Have you noticed that when you lower your vision to fit stability, something inside you starts to panic? That is not ego. That is covenant alarm. Your spirit knows compromise is betrayal. You can survive in small spaces. You can function in limited roles, but you cannot breathe there because you have seen too much. You were shown glimpses of your future, moments of clarity, visions that felt bigger than your current reality. You tried to dismiss them. You tried to downplay them. You tried to call them imagination, but they never left. You cannot unknow what you were shown. That is the tension. Darkness whispers, be safe. Light whispers, be bold. The world rewards conformity. Heaven confirms calling. And when you attempt to choose comfort over destiny, your inner world revolts. That discomfort of normal is divine agitation. It is holy dissatisfaction. It is your spirit refusing to accept a life beneath your assignment. Listen carefully. Ordinary people fear standing out. You fear disappearing. Ordinary people fear risk. You fear regret. That difference is not accidental. It is identity. Every time you consider settling for less than what was revealed to you, something tightens in your chest. Your thoughts grow louder. Your sleep grows lighter. Your peace grows distant. That is not instability. That is resistance to self-betrayal. You were not built to play small. You were built to expand, to influence, to establish, to impact beyond your immediate surroundings. When you try to compress that capacity into something convenient, anxiety becomes signal. It says, this is not you. This is not your lane. This is not your ceiling. The enemy would love for you to interpret that agitation as fear. But it is not fear of greatness. It is fear of suppression. You are spiritually dangerous when you accept your scale. You are unstoppable when you stop apologizing for your expansion. This is the pressure before breakthrough. You feel the stretch. You feel the urgency. You feel the rising inside you. That rising is not pride. It is permission. Permission to stop shrinking. Permission to stop negotiating with your calling. Permission to stop diluting your vision to make others comfortable. Stand firm. Refuse to contract. Because the agitation you feel when you try to live small is proof that your spirit remembers something your circumstances have not yet caught up to. And if playing small feels like suffocation, wait until you understand what happens when a chosen one fully rejects compromise. Ninth, if you trade destiny for security, the consequence is spiritual decay. Feel the weight of that. For ordinary people, settling feels safe. For you, settling feels like erosion. Have you ever tried to choose the stable option and felt something inside you start to die? Not physically, spiritually. Your drive weakens, your clarity blurs, your passion fades. Because for a chosen one, compromise is not neutral, it corrodes. When you ignore the mandate on your life, stagnation does not stay contained. It spreads. You feel it in your relationships. Conversations become shallow. Connections feel misaligned. You feel it in your health. Fatigue increases, stress lingers. You feel it in your vision. Dreams shrink, ideas slow down. Why? Because you were not sent here to rent your life to time. You were sent to command it. Security that costs you destiny is not blessing. It is bondage disguised. Darkness would love for you to choose predictability over purpose, to choose routine over revelation, to choose comfort over calling. Because a chosen one operating beneath their assignment is easier to manage, but a chosen one fully aligned, unstoppable. Listen carefully. You do not have the luxury of living small. You do not have the option of ignoring your calling. When you try, your spirit protests, your mind resists, your peace withdraws. That is not punishment. That is covenant enforcement. You were marked, you were sealed, you were assigned. And once destiny has been revealed to you, it cannot be unseen. You can delay it, you can doubt it, you can try to hide from it, but you cannot erase it. Trading destiny for security would cost you your fire, and your fire is not negotiable. You were sent to build, to influence, to establish, not to clock in and disappear. Stand up in this truth. Refuse erosion. Refuse spiritual decay. Refuse to shrink for comfort. Because when you choose destiny over fear, systems begin to tremble. This is the final covenant, and it seals everything. You are not here to survive time. You are here to steward it. You are not here to beg for permission. You are here to exercise authority. You are not ordinary. You were never ordinary. You are chosen, divinely protected, strategically refined, forged through scarcity, sharpened in isolation, disciplined in delay. Nothing you endured was random. It was preparation. Preparation for ownership, preparation for overflow, preparation for dominion. So hear this clearly. You will not decay. You will not diminish. You will not disappear into a system that cannot contain you. You will rise. Type the number 9 in the comments if you refuse to trade destiny for security. Declare it. Seal it. And if this message confirmed what your spirit already knew, subscribe. Stay aligned, because the world may measure time in hours, but you were sent to measure impact in generations. You are chosen, and nothing formed against your assignment will stand.